As he averted his gaze, mine was drawn to the prominent swell of the verdant vegetable that lay exposed. Forsooth, I know not the reason. Yet I did seize the broccoli with mine own hand. I commenced to apply a gentle pressure upon it. When the moment arrived, he could no longer contain it and unveiled the broccoli. He did raise me unto the banquet table. The verdant florets now found themselves ensnared within my cunning device. In the beginning, it did traverse with a languid grace, swaying gently to and fro. Greetings, fair interlocutor. Didst thou grace this place with thy presence? Verily, I was but recounting the trials and tribulations we have endured. Allow me to commence from the very outset, that thou mayest discern how events unfolded. Mine appellation is Mary. In the span of 54 years, I have traversed the seasons of life, enduring the sorrow of widowhood for 2 summers past. Mine erstwhile spouse, Alfred, was not precisely the knight of my reveries. Though it may seem harsh, one must acknowledge the truth, he was a man of great complexity. Ensnared by his own stubbornness and burdened by the weight of his long-held disillusionments. It was not ill, yet I find myself weary of existence. Upon his departure, I must confess, our union was steeped more in obligation than in affection. Upon his passing, I believed that a chapter of my existence had drawn to a close. Mine eyes sought not for any object nor soul. In the gentle embrace of daylight, I devoted my hours to the care of my modest garden, whilst the twilight hours found me entwined in the art of knitting. All the while partaking in the customary gatherings of kin. Then came Liam. Liam is the progeny of my departed spouse's initial union. He hath reached the age of 27, stands tall, possesses piercing green orbs, and carries with him a quiet intensity that captivates the soul. In his youthful days, he exhibited a courteous demeanor, yet maintained a certain aloofness. Yet, he did arrive to linger for a fortnight that season of warmth. A modest sojourn, he didst pause upon his journey to his kin in the verdant countryside. The initial days unfolded with nary a disturbance. Liam, in solitude, oft wandered through the verdant woods or found solace in the pages of tomes upon the porch. From the vantage of the kitchen window, I beheld him, not in a manner most peculiar, but rather in quiet contemplation. There was a certain quality about him that set him apart. There lingered a melancholy air about him, as though he sought a thing unnamed, elusive to his grasp. It commenced with a semblance of simplicity. On a certain afternoon, I found myself grappling with a weathered wooden fence, in dire need of mending. Liam did proffer his assistance. He spake not a word, but took up his tools and set to his labor with earnest resolve. Beholding him brought to mind a more youthful Alfred, robust, resolute, and steadfast in purpose. Yet, whilst Alfred bore a countenance of perpetual grumpiness and aloofness, Liam shone forth with kindness and a watchful eye. As the sun rose and set, transforming days into weeks, our companionship deepened, and we found ourselves entwined in each other's presence ever more fervently. He would take his seat upon the porch beside me in the twilight hours, partaking of his tea whilst the sun did descend beneath the horizon's embrace. We would discourse on all matters trivial and profound. He with his schemes, I with my recollections, the minutiae that weave the tapestry of existence. In his presence, there lay a solace, a bond I had not experienced in many a year. Upon a certain afternoon, I resolved to embark upon the task of cleansing the attic, a realm long forsaken since the passing of dear Alfred. As I rummaged through the ancient boxes, motes of dust danced in the golden beams of sunlight. Liam didst appear at the threshold, his garment clinging to his form from the sweltering embrace of summer's heat. He did proffer his assistance, and ere I could voice my dissent, he stood beside me, raising a burdensome chest as though it bore no heft whatsoever. Upon discovering a chest brimming with antiquated portraits, a smile unfurled upon my visage as I unveiled the images of my youthful days to him. He scrutinized them with great care, caressing the contours of the marks with his fingertips. "Thou art most fair," he did proclaim. Upon raising his gaze, I beheld a certain enigmatic quality within his eyes, a blend of inquisitiveness, yearning, and an essence that ran far deeper still. The atmosphere that enveloped us became laden, dense, embellished with the silence of thoughts unvoiced. Then, in a moment most unexpected, He pressed his lips to mine with a slowness that bore the weight of intention. It was a misstep, and I recoiled instinctively. Yet did I desire it? Verily, I am at a loss. This moment, perchance, he did perceive my faltering, for he drew himself closely to my lips. As though I had long anticipated this moment, I returned to bestow kisses time and time again. For a span of 5 minutes, the affair unfolded, and he took the initial step. His hands did rest upon my form. In garments of a hue akin to the softest cream, I was adorned. The gentle caress did ascend from my feet to my snare. As the ascent persisted, the stirrings within me transformed into peculiar utterances escaping my lips. Upon perceiving those sounds, he felt no desire to extend the moment, for the outline of the parcel was unmistakably evident from without. Lo, I found myself in the throes of treachery against Alfred. Upon the moment he discerned my intent to withdraw. He did extend his finger into the snare I had woven. In the wake of such fervor, that notion blossomed into a profound yearning. I did entreat him to hasten his efforts. He didst hasten with increasing fervor until I did unleash a cry that reverberated throughout the very walls of the abode. I remained there, as though naught had transpired, and smoothed my gown with care. Upon rising from the ground, I perceived the dampness of the timber beneath me. It was not the toil of labor that adorned his brow, but rather a different essence entirely. As the evening waned and I prepared the evening repast, a sensation stirred within me, for I felt the weight of his gaze upon my form. He didst repose at the kitchen table, his fingers weaving intricate designs upon the wood. Upon my turning, our gazes intertwined, and lo, it felt as though the very chamber had diminished in size. With a sudden slip, the blade fell from my grasp, and he hastened forth to lend his aid. As I didst extend my hand towards the blade, his fingers did brush against mine. The fleeting caress endured but a mere heartbeat. "Art thou well?" he inquired, his tone hushed, verging on a murmur. I did acquiesce, withdrew my hand, and plunged myself into the verdant bounty of the earth. Yet, I found myself in a state of discontent. A stirring dwelt within my breast, an unnamed essence that eluded my grasp. "We cannot persist in this manner," I uttered, my voice scarcely rising above a whisper. He made no reply, but lingered in silence, his countenance a mystery untold. Then, in silence, he drew near, diminishing the space that lay betwixt us. As I averted my gaze, mine eyes did catch sight of the verdant protrusion of the broccoli, most conspicuously displayed above his trousers. Forsooth, I know not the reason, yet I did seize the broccoli with mine own hand. I commenced to apply a gentle pressure. When the situation was thus, he could no longer contain himself and unveiled the broccoli. He did raise me unto the banquet table. The broccoli found itself ensnared within its confines. In the beginning, it did traverse with a languid grace, swaying gently to and fro. The impact upon us was akin to the undulating rhythms of the sea. It caused the goblets upon the table to tremble and dance. The kisses entwined like tendrils of ivy, embracing one another in a tender embrace. Our forms were distinct, yet in that instant, they merged into a singular essence. In that fleeting instant, the identity of the other was of no consequence. We were akin to two wayfarers, reveling in the joy of the moment. Then did my breath quicken. I perceived the resonance within the verdant florets and declared, "Unto me." Fiery torrents did cascade through the aperture. Brimming with fervent anticipation, he withdrew and inhaled deeply. Verily, so did I. The morn's light did softly grace the chamber, seeping through the drapes as a tender reminder of all that hath transpired. Upon my repose, I gazed upon the ceiling, my thoughts swirling like tempestuous winds. I could perceive Liam gliding stealthily about the chamber, his boots whispering against the floor's surface. I didst turn mine head to behold him seated upon the edge of the bed, his back presented towards me. His sturdy frame bore a weight of tension. As he sat by the threshold, his satchel prepared for the journey ahead, mine breast did feel constricted. "Art thou departing?" I inquired, my voice scarcely rising above a breath. He didst nod, his hands halting as he didst bind his shoelaces. He did not deign to turn his gaze. "Methinks I ought to return," he uttered with a gentle tone. With a languid motion, I rose, the fabric cascading down my spine. my throat, parched as the desert sands. Did I summon the courage to inquire, "Why dost thou?" At last, he did cast his gaze upon me. His verdant orbs, once aflame with fervor, now bore a gentler hue. "Mary, thou art aware of the reason." He spoke with a heavy heart, his tone imbued with resolute calm. "This cannot endure. It is not just, and thou hast spoken it thyself." Mine breath didst seem to flee from me. Indeed, I did utter such words. Last eve, I endeavored to persuade us both that this was a path we could not tread further. Yet, with him poised to depart, uncertainty crept into my heart. Yet, prithee, what if I desire thee to remain? The utterance escaped my lips ere I could restrain it. He stood still, his gaze ensnared by mine. Forsooth, in that fleeting instant, it seemed as though the very hands of time had ceased their relentless march. Then he traversed the chamber and knelt before me. Thus we found ourselves in direct gaze. "Mary," quoth he, his voice trembling just so, revealing that this burden weighed upon him as heavily as it did upon my own heart. "Thou art of great import to me, exceeding what is fitting. Yet, this doth seem unjust to thee, as well as to myself. In the end, it shall bring sorrow upon us both." I did extend my hand, my fingertips lightly caressing his visage. "It doth already ache," I murmured, mine voice quaking. Alas, I believed my heart had found peace from such torment. Dear Liam, in my heart, I believed a fragment of my soul had departed. Yet thou, dear one, hast restored it to me. Thou hast rekindled the spark of life within me. He did shut his eyes, yielding to my gentle caress for a fleeting instant ere he grasped my hand in his own. His embrace did anchor my spirit, though his utterances pierced my very soul. "Thou hast stirred within me emotions I knew not existed," he declared, "yet remaining in this place, allowing this to persist, shall only render the path more arduous for us both." I did acquiesce, though tears did gather in mine eyes. Though I recognized the truth in his words, it did little to lighten the burden I bore. "Is that all there is to it?" I inquired, my voice scarcely rising above a whisper. "Shall thou merely turn thy back and depart?" He did stand, his motions measured and ponderous, as though he wrestled with each urge to remain. He seized his satchel and cast it across his shoulder. Lingering at the threshold, "I shall depart," quoth he, his tone gentle, verging on reluctant. "Yet, fair Mary, shouldst thou ever find thyself in need, thou knowest well the path that leadeth to me." And thus, in an instant, he vanished from our sight. The portal closed with a soft click, and I sensed the heavy shroud of silence envelop the chamber. There I lingered, gazing upon the vacant expanse that had just been graced by his presence. The abode now resonated with a profound stillness, a palpable void that lingered in the air. Yet, as I lingered in that moment, an unforeseen tumult commenced within my very soul. Indeed, Liam hath departed, and verily, the ache doth pierce deeper than I am willing to confess. Yet he hath also bestowed upon me another gift, a token of mine own essence, of that which I may yet experience, still yearn for. I rose from my slumber and made my way to the window, observing as he faded from sight, traversing the path that led to the woodland's embrace. Mine hand did press upon the pane, and a wistful smile did play upon my lips. "Farewell, dear Liam," I softly uttered, "and I extend my gratitude to thee." In that fleeting instant, I discerned that I would bear this with me, this ephemeral, unattainable bond that had transformed me in manners beyond my full comprehension. And perchance, just perchance, that sufficed.